Okay, so I am here with Maj Wismann, who is a Danish sexologist. She's been working with couples since 2006, and she has an online course in how to get your libido back? Is that right?
Sex drive.
How to get your sex drive back since 2009 you've had this course, right?
No, 2013 actually, but I have had a lot of other online courses since 2009.
So
So
you've been teaching online courses since 2009.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And this course, I'm sorry everybody, because I think that the registration for it just closed on November 24th. But you should go over to her website because we're going to have the information and get on her mailing list so you can hear about the next one.
Next is actually open because somebody asked me to. When is the next going to open? So I've opened it again.
That's
so
great.
It's open for January now. So
okay, so if you're listening to this, you can still get in for January. All right, I'll get this interview out right away then, so no one will miss it. And Maj lives in, I want to say, Nyborg, Denmark. Is that correct?
Okay. That's correct.
Cool. And she lives with her husband, Mads.
Mm-hmm.
And she lives with her sons, Emil and Alfred.
Yes.
Okay. See, and you'd think that I had practiced, like you wouldn't even know I had any practice. Like as a side note to the viewers, Maj is tremendously gracious because we actually recorded this entire interview once before, but because of a technical problem, we didn't get to do it. So she has so generously offered to redo this interview with me, and I'm so grateful to her for doing that. So thank you so much for being here.
No worries. I love being interviewed by you. We had such a fun time last time, so I'm really hoping we're going to have that today too.
I know, we had a great
pleasure.
I had to remember to set my timer because I had so much fun talking to you last time.
Yeah.
So last time we were talking a lot about the biggest problem that couples run up against a lot of times in their sex life is something that they don't realize is the cause of the problem, and that's exhaustion. But you can be so exhausted that you're just not, that's why you're not having sex. Is that something that your clients work, is that something that they have as a problem a lot, or how often does that happen?
Yeah. It's actually happen a lot of time, because when you grow up and you get a job and you get kids and you get family and you got this, as I normally call it, you get this family company because you actually have to run your family like a company, and maybe you don't get super much sleep every night, or maybe you have some small kids waking you up. That state your body goes into, you kind of get used to being exhausted. You kind of get used to the being tired all the time. So you reach a point where you actually don't notice it anymore because that's just the new normal. So it actually just takes a little and a little and a little and a little and a little, and then you just think this is the way life is supposed to be. And maybe you also tell yourself in your head that, well, I'm over 35. It's normal to be tired, and it's normal to be tired when I come home from work. But there's a big difference between exhaustion and being tired. And what happens is that you're actually in your mind, your brain has this ability to kind of like fool you around, actually, because it makes you think this is the new normal. And when you think that this is the new normal and this is just how life is supposed to be, you actually don't do anything about it. And that's the biggest problem, because when you don't realize that you are exhausted or you're very, very tired, because you can't feel it, maybe because you don't stop up and actually feel it, then you can't do anything about it. And then you can't understand why you have a lack of sex drive, why when you are going to have sex with your husband, why it takes almost hours to get turned on. you really don't understand these things because you don't realize that something is wrong. So you
Yeah.
just start, okay, thinking that, well, something is wrong with me when I don't have the sex drive, and actually something is wrong with you, but that's with a huge possibility that's more likely to be something about tiredness and exhaustion.
Yeah, and two things I love that what you said was, one was about if you just accept it as the new normal, then you can't actually do anything about it.
Yep.
You think this is just how it is. And the other thing I've noticed with my clients, and we've talked about this before, that I'm a love coach and an energy healer, and what I've seen with my clients is that they think it's their spouse. If they don't think it's them, they think it's their spouse because they're not attracted to them. And it's not that they're not attracted to them, it's that they're not attracted to anybody because they're so exhausted that they have no interest in sex.
Exactly, and that's really, really interesting, because one of the things that women, and it's normally women I work with, or mostly women I work with, but one of the things is that they think something is wrong with their love life. They think something is wrong with their relationship when they have a lack of sex drive, and they think that, oh, maybe one of the first thoughts you get is, well, maybe I don't love my husband anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start questioning all your relationship, and maybe even some people get divorced because of this, and that's really a shame, because if your lack of sex drive is because of exhaustion and tiredness and all the things that does to your hormonal system, it has nothing to do with your relationship. Maybe something is wrong with your relationship otherwise, but but as I see it, and the women I work with, normally it has nothing to do with their relationship. And when I talk to them about this, they're just like, oh my God, they get so relieved, and some of them actually feel their sex drive just from the relief.
Yeah.
But they get so relieved because now you can say, okay, what is the problem actually? Instead of thinking, oh, maybe it's this, maybe it's this, maybe it's this, or this, or this, or this, or this. So you get this very straight way, okay, this is because of this and this. So we make a plan. Maybe you should try to go to sleep just an hour before, because, or maybe you should try to do this and this and this. And then we see what happens. And usually it doesn't take very, very long time when you start doing something else. But you know that as a healer and as a coach, when you do something different, you get different results. And when you actually start giving your body and your mind what it actually needs, the results often come. Yeah, they follow quite quick. So it's very interesting, and I have had a lot of women say to me that they really thought that something was wrong, that they were ill, or they would have it like this for the rest of their lives, and they are so grateful, and I really understand that, because if the thoughts in their head was that something is really wrong with me, we are going to be divorced in a year or two, this is a huge problem and I don't know what I can do about it. And I don't even know what has given me the problem.
And to have the relief from that is huge.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah.
It's like tons of stones from their back taking off, and people often they start to cry and just burst out in tears by relief. It's very touching. Is that the word? Touching. To see. Very. Yeah. And then they can go home and tell their husband, what is this about? Why is it like this? And then they can talk, and he's, oh my God, it makes good sense. No.
Yeah.
Don't necessarily have to take your life and turn it around, because lots of people think that, oh my God, I just have to quit my job, I have to do. No. Just
and then they do that, and then in a couple of years it's the same situation again, because it's not about it wasn't necessarily that problem. in the first place. Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, you
So
said
it's very interesting. Yeah.
You said something the first time that we talked, and it so touched me because I could see that in myself. And I just laughed so hard, and I told my husband about it. You were talking about how when you think that, like, if your husband or your partner, if he comes to you and he's just thinking about wanting to hug you and cuddle with you, and he just wants the closeness to be with you, and you're worried that that's going to mean that he wants sex, and that you can't have sex right now, or you're too tired for sex or whatever, and you were talking about that you're running from him like a gazelle.
Yeah.
Chasing you.
The lion gazelle metaphor. Yeah.
Like a sexual lion.
Yeah, because that's what it is. That he becomes a lion, and you know, women they can feel when he drives the car into the parking, and oh my God, they can feel it, even though he hasn't come in the room. He wants to give me a hug. And what's very interesting is that with the hug, men has a amazing ability to get quicker turned on than women, especially with than women. If women, the woman or the women haven't worked with their sexuality, haven't worked with their sexual potential, then there is a big difference in how fast you get turned on and how fast you think sex, beep, 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 beep. And lots of men are quite easy to turn on, I would say that. So if you give him a hug and he wants to hug you and cuddle with you and give you a kiss and just like, oh my God, I missed you, and he gets turned on, lots of women think that their responsibility, oh my God, he's turned on now, we have to have sex, or he think we're going to have sex in the evening. And then they just try to avoid him, and then you can sit in each end of the couch missing each other. Yeah. And you have this huge misunderstanding between you,
and you're sitting there on the same couch that far away from each other.
Yeah, and both misses the hugs and the cuddles and the maybe also even the sex, but misses the closeness you have with your partner. There's a lot of reason why you have sex, actually. There's a huge Danish research about that, with where you ask people, why do you have sex? And one of the things that both men and women they told was that, so I can be very close to my partner. Mm-hmm. That's very interesting, because when women loses their sex drive, they think he just wants to have sex. He just wants to. And I'm really sorry for the words I'm going to use now. Please
ahead.
turn.
Go ahead.
But women, they automatically start to think in this vicious spiral, if you can say that. They think, oh my God, he's just going to masturbate inside of me. He's just going to use me as a doll. Mm-hmm. And they completely forget how they once thought that sex was wonderful and they loved to be close to their husband. Mm-hmm. And then I have to say, a little bit of the women I've worked with actually didn't enjoy sex, and that was also the reason why the sex drive disappeared. So it's important for me to say, because some women actually have sex they don't want to have, and then the body's closed down for the libido, the sex drive. But the most of the women I work with actually enjoyed sex at one time, or before they lost their sex drive. So
and that's probably why they come to you, because it felt like such a problem to lose it. If you don't ever want to have it, you're not going to seek out usually help to get it back. If you're like, I just don't like sex. Yeah.
Unless your husband has said the divorce word.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, and it's very you could say it's very comic. It's very cartoon-like, that you're sitting in the couch, both of you, and really missing each other. But it's also very sad, because lots of days goes that way, and two grown-up adults that love each other's and misses each other's, and they just, none of them are getting what they need or giving what they need. Yeah.
And it's sad. It's sad too, because it's such an intimate and bonding thing. It's such an energy and a force for connection, and it can become the source of people just feeling totally disconnected.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
strange. It's
Yeah.
strange that it's like that, but it is.
Yeah, and something happens in the energy field with the men and the women when they have had sex, and not every time, but lots of couple have told me that something. It's like the days after they have had sex, it's more lightning. It's just more easy to be them.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. It's very interesting, but it is, as I talked about before. There are lots of reasons why you have sex. It's not only because you need to ejaculate or have an orgasm. There are so many emotional reasons why you have sex too, and also self issues, or what you self what do you call it? It gives you something. Something happens with your self-esteem. I'm a good lover, I'm a good wife, I'm a good girlfriend. Something happens in that space. So a lot of things is going on when you're having sex and when you are not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like what you were saying about the energy field, because in the work that I do, I've seen so much of that. And you can see what's interesting is helping women create that feel when they have sex. When you have sex with your partner, you feel beautiful, like you feel reconnected. When you have the reconnection and things are good, you feel beautiful.
Yeah.
And I've seen that in the clients I work with. They it's something about like they reconnect with their feminine energy in a way, and you can see the effects for like days afterwards. They feel confident and beautiful and powerful and all of these things again, and reconnected. And that's not to say that, you can't feel confident or powerful or beautiful unless you're having sex with a man. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm just saying that if you
Don't misunderstand this.
yes, please, no angry emails. That's not what I'm saying.
No.
I'm saying if you are in a relationship, if you're a woman in a relationship with a man that you love and you want to have sex with him, and you have sex with him, whatever the thing is that you overcome so that you can have sex with him, afterwards, the feeling of connection is so nourishing and beautiful and huge that it nourishes her as a person too. It nourishes both of them. And I see her come out of it with this just, it's like she's remembered that she's beautiful. She's been beautiful the whole time, but it's like she's remembering it again.
Yeah.
You
Because
know?
it does it exactly because it does something to the way you look at yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And you get, and also as I talked about the emotional part of having sex with your partner,
Mm-hmm.
it fills you up.
Mm-hmm.
It's like yes, I know we are not kids, and kids needs lots of hugs, but adults do too.
Yeah.
We really need to get the physical touch,
Mm-hmm.
and the I really love you
Yeah.
just the way you are, and right here in this moment. I don't want to argue about who's going to take the dishes or walk the dog or something. I just want to be here with you in this moment. And sometimes you have wonderful sex and it takes long time, and sometimes you just have quick sex and it can be the same result. And sometimes you have wonderful results, and sometimes you're just like, okay, now we go to sleep. So it's different from every time. But something's my experience is that something's always happens the day after, or the day. It's like, as you talked about, a connection is happening.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. Yeah. So when you don't have sex and your libido is very low or totally non-existing, you're going to miss this. And the very, very big misunderstanding women get is that he's just thinking about sex all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe he is, but what is sex for him?
Mm-hmm.
What does he get out of sex? What does he get emotionally You know, it's like we're just taking all our focus and putting it out on him and saying, okay, it's because he wants sex, he wants boop, 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 boop. Yeah, but what do you want? And maybe he's not a sex monster, even though it can feel that way. It really can feel that way. But he isn't a sex monster. He's just a man, and he has some needs, and he is living together with the woman he loves, and he can't have her right here. So he gets desperate, he gets frustrated. Sometimes he maybe even say things that he doesn't mean because he's so frustrated, because he's also missing that thing. And that's very important to remember, because a lot of time men and their high sex drive, and you know, we have a lot of myths about that, and that's a whole other interview, but
we'll do that interview too. We'll do that interview sometime.
Myths about men and sex, yeah. But the thing is that he's also just a human being, and he can't. It's like there comes this wall between you, and he misses you, and that's what lots of it is about. And when he can't even come home from work, or see you come home from work and give you a hug, because you're just like, oh my God, I have to do the laundry, oh my God, because you don't want to give him a hug, because then you think he's going to want to have sex with you, and you have to take the responsibility, and I cannot take the responsibility because I can't find my sex drive, I don't know how to be turned on, maybe it's a relationship, no wonder you have to run away, but really, and no wonder you get sad, but for crying out loud, he just wants a hug, and he misses you. And that's so important to understand. And when I talk with women about this, because they often make men a little mean, you know, a little, it's only about sex. Well, could there be another story?
Yeah.
Could there be a more empathic, isn't that the word? Empathy.
Empathetic? Could they be more empathetic? Yeah.
Story. Or what could actually be the reality here? Then he's just a freaking sex monster wanting to have sex with you all the time. So what is the reality here? And what is really interesting, that when I have worked with couples and I have let the man tell about this, the woman totally changed how she looks at him.
Yeah.
I have had lots of women say, "Oh my God, he has feelings too."
I didn't know he felt like that. Yeah, I didn't know he was capable of experiencing that emotion. It's the same thing. It's the same thing I see it in my clients as well, where they're like, I had no idea that sex meant the same things to me that it does to him. Like, I didn't know he was capable of feeling those same feelings I feel.
Exactly, and sometimes sex is just a fuck. Sometimes it just is, and sometimes it's about, okay, I have to sleep, and I can't sleep, so
and
I have
need a release.
So let's have some quick sex and get an orgasm, and then we can sleep, you know. And sometimes it is that.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it's so many other things, and that's so important to remember, that men are actually humans too, because it's so it sounds so funny, I know, but when you have this problem with your sex drive, it's very, very common to put your man in this little box.
Oh yeah.
And label it with the sex monster, and that makes even more distance. And I think that by making it more, by seeing the whole picture, it helps actually the women I work with to understand that he's not going to leave her, that he's just a human, and he really loves her, and he really just misses her. And that itself can actually do that she can sit close to him in the couch, not in the coach, in the couch, in the evening. And when you start to recreate this intimacy, sorry, I think my English is not very good today. But when you start to create this intimacy space,
it's great. Your English is great.
Thank you. And start working with the sensuality, not the sexuality, but with the sensuality, something's happened with the sexuality. So if you can start creating this space of we can hug and we can kiss and we can hold hands and we can sit together, if you can start creating that space again, recreating that space again, often something is going to happen with the sexuality.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you said about that tendency to, oh, first, full disclosure, I have completely done the gazelle and the lion thing with my husband in the beginnings of my business. Yeah.
I have to in my first marriage, very, very, very much.
And that's why it touched me so much the first time that we talked about that. And I just thought, oh my God, that's so clear. That's exactly what was happening. And when you talk about seeing your husband or your boyfriend as seeing them like kind of demonizing their intentions as like, oh, they just want sex, I've seen that same thing from a different side. Like when you are seeing these clients, these are women that are like already in these relationships. And my clients, for the most part, are women who are trying to get into relationships.
Yeah.
And when they look back at their partnerships that they've had previously, a lot of times they have a lot of resentment, and they have built up this belief that men always just want sex, or men only care about you until they get the sex and then they don't want it anymore. So they have these other beliefs, and it keeps the relationship from even being able to get started, because then sex is always like a weapon or like a tool. It's not something for intimacy, because they're not able to see the other person yet as a partner. They're seeing them as an adversary, kind of someone that you have to like strategically, like they have to have a strategy with the person, and they're not even in a relationship yet. So to see how that can kind of carry out into their relationship when they're married, once they've gotten married, or if they're in a long-term relationship or something like that, it's so important to get these things, to look at these things in the beginning, as soon as early on as you can, and not have those days and days and days of sitting on those opposite sides of the couch and, you know, losing that intimacy and getting to that point of desperation.
Yeah, exactly. And that's so, it's and the thing is that like with the women you work with, it's like, oh, they just want to have sex. Yeah, but the interesting thing about sex is that, what do you want? You know, you have to ask yourself the question as a woman, what is it you want out of sex? Because if you just give him sex because he wants sex, you know, that's not partnership.
Right.
No healthy man wants to go to bed with a woman who doesn't want
him,
to go to, who doesn't want him and doesn't want to have sex with him. And I've talked with men about this, men who has experienced that their partner just had sex because they thought they were supposed to. Or even I have seen some tips on the internet saying, if you have lost your sex drive, you just go have sex, it will come back. The more sex you have, the more sex drive you will have. And I would say for a lot of couple that doesn't work, it just makes it worse. So that will not be something I will recommend, because you have to find out why the sex drive is low. And if it is a relationship problem, this is really a bad tip. Because if it is a relationship, if it is because of anger or something like that, and then you just have sex,
now there's even more anger and even more resentment, and
exactly.
It's awful.
But it is really interesting that you have to, and that's happens so many times when you lose your sex drive, is that you completely stop focusing on what do I like, what is it I want to have out of sex, why is sex great for me, and when is it that I am being turned on or being turned off, what is it that I when I look at my husband and he wears this or this, how do I respond to that? And you completely forget your own sexuality in that way, and just focusing on that he wants me and he wants sex and I can't give it to him. Oh, okay. if I wanted sex, what kind of sex do I want it? How would that be? How could I make that comfortable for me? Because that's kind of the point. That has to be great.
There's
So
two people that are having the sex.
exactly. You're not just a body who he wants or has to use or something like that. No, it's a play. It's a gay game, if you could say that. So you really have to go inside yourself, and you can also do that even, and I really recommend that even if you haven't lost your sex drive, say, okay, I want to explore a little bit about my own sexuality and my own sexual potential. There is something we do when we have sex, or what did you call it, when you know you're going to have sex and you're just flirting and all that, the foreplay.
Yeah.
And that can last for days for some people, but what is it that is turning me on 100% and turning me on 70% or turning me on 2%? There is
what are your triggers? What are your really strong triggers, and what are the little things that get you going?
Yeah, and sometimes, because that can also depend, what time of month have I gotten my sleep, all these things.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting to go into that field and explore your own sexuality potential like that, and try to go after the 100% for the most of the time, and really, really don't go after the minus 50%. But it's like a lot of women, they don't know that.
Yeah.
And that's what I teach them. This, you can be turned on 20% or 30%, 50%, and sometimes you can't be turned on, and that's okay. But if you really have to have a good sex life, you have to figure out what do I love, what do I like, what do I want more of, and what do I certainly not want more of.
That I know for sure. Don't do that again.
Thank you, but no thank you. Exactly.
I think a lot of women too have an idea, at least I know that a lot of the clients that I've worked with have an idea that, going back to something you said before, that certain types of sex are good and certain types are bad. So like if you have time to have like a long drawn out sexual encounter, then that's good because you are able to be completely in it and all of these things. But if it's just a quickie, that's not good, because you're supposed to feel like it cheapens you or something like that. You're supposed to insist that it has to be, if I can't have this long, big sexual experience, then it has to be, then it's not good. And I think if we can get away from some of those ideas that like some kinds of sex, if it's sex with you and your partner and you both want to be having it, whether it's fast or whether it takes a long time, whether it's in the morning or whether it's in the afternoon, whether you are having sex on your kitchen table or whether you're having sex in your bedroom, like it's all okay. It's all okay. Good.
Exactly, because there's so many different ways to have sex, and it's all okay and it's all normal. I really think one of the things we need in this talk in general about sexuality is to talk about what normal is. Mm-hmm. Because lots of people have these very romanticized thoughts about and thoughts about what's real sex and what's not real sex, and how is sex supposed
That's what it is. What's real sex and what's not real sex. That's what it is. Yeah.
Exactly. And I know that a lot of women likes a quickie sometimes, but they are ashamed of
they don't want to say it. Yeah.
Because they think, oh my God, now I'm somebody who's being used, or maybe you're somebody using somebody. You really need to think about this, and that would be okay, because you can't use him if you don't want to, and he can't use you if you don't want to. So it's about seeing yourself in this new way and accepting that sometimes I actually just like being taken. Mm-hmm. and have a quickie. And sometimes I really like to be the one in charge, and sometimes I really like to be the one not in charge, and sometimes I really like candlelights, and sometimes I really like just doing it on the couch, and sometimes I like it to take 2 hours, and sometimes and you can keep on going. But the very important thing is try to feel what's happening in your body, because the body doesn't lie.
Exactly.
It's very interesting. It doesn't lie. Your thoughts can lie a lot. There are so many shame and guilt, and I wish I was a wizard, so I could just say ding and take all these shame and guilt thoughts away, but I can't, because they are killing a lot of it. But try just to feel what happens in your body, because it doesn't lie.
Absolutely. I do muscle testing with my clients, and it's amazing how the difference between what they think is true, what's in their conscious thoughts, and what their body says that their subconscious and that their higher self actually believes is amazing. It's amazing. You know this already. I know that our conscious mind is a horrible judge of what is actually in our subconscious.
Exactly. And what happens when we tap into this sexuality energy and start exploring what is going on inside of my body? It can be really scary.
Yeah.
It can be really scary, because you can find yourself being turned on by things that you thought was kind of slutty, taking lingerie on and posing for your husband, maybe, or 1,000 other things. And you can say, oh my God, I always thought that women who did this was like, and now it's me, so I must be, instead of just saying, is anybody being hurt? No.
We're okay.
Does it feel good? Does your husband like it?
Yeah.
Just go on.
We're good.
And I know, and the women who's going to listen to this, they will say, oh, you make it sound so easy. And it's not easy if you have it that way. But the first thing is to actually decide to go down that road.
Yeah.
And
give yourself permission to explore your potential sexually.
Exactly. And give yourself permission to enjoy sex. Because there is a reason why we can have sex. And if you're going to have sex anyway, why not find out ways to enjoy it even more?
Make it good, yeah. Find out how to make it good for yourself.
Exactly.
I'm sure you see this all the time. Isn't it so amazing too how when we take a little bit more responsibility for our enjoyment of sex as women, it's amazing how our partner reacts to that. Like, we think that it's going to seem, I don't know, I think a lot of women think it's going to seem like unladylike or something to be responsible for your pleasure and be like, I like this or do this or whatever and say this. And they hold back from saying what they want to say. And when they start actually saying it, it's surprising how some of those things can be like that 100% trigger for him. And then by seeing how turned on he is, by her being turned on, then she becomes more turned on, and then that turns him on more. And it just builds this big.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's just that.
And also when she starts to work with this, she also gives, when she starts working on this and she starts getting a little bit out of her own comfort zone, that's also a way giving him permission to start working on his sexuality on an unconscious level, if they don't talk about it. And that's very interesting in what actually happens, that if you just every second or every third time you have sex, just take this little tiny step outside your comfort zone and do something that you have been thinking about that you wanted to do. Because then by time it will get the new normal, and you will, it's like when you play piano. I've played piano for years, that if you can only play here, it can, that's not Beethoven. Sorry.
But if you do a little more each time.
Yeah. It's about sexual potential, and it's about sexual intelligence, and it's about giving yourself permission to work with this part. And it doesn't have to be your hobby. My God, you know, some people think, oh my God, I have to spend hours on this. No, and do vagina weightlifting and, you know, go to tantra and all. And I'm just, if you want to, you just do that. But you really don't have to do all these things to get a healthy and great sex life and have this flirtation in your everyday life, the flirtation with yourself and the flirtation with your husband. And that's also a way you can work to get to higher your sex drive. Actually, if you have a very low sex drive or doesn't have it at all, start working this way. Yeah. And I think that what I experience is that women are amazed of how small changes can make them really want sex even more, because it's not only about the lust, it's not only about the what we experience in the, you know, the first 2 years we're in love, infatuation period. It's not that lust, it's not the, oh my God, I can't get enough of him. That's not the one, but it's kind of like a lust that if you had some really, really, really good food that you really, really, really enjoyed, your body will remember that. And if you have that once a week, twice a week, or once every second week, your body will remember it. If you have had very good experiences, your body will eventually say, I think I would like more of that. And then you will get this different kind of lust, I will say. I don't know the English word for it, but you'll get a different kind of lust, and that is what I'm working with the women and the couples to get this lust and this sex drive. And when you get there and you work with this, you will also say yes more when he initiates sex and wants to have sex or kisses you, or because you will get turned on easier. And you will know, you can say, no, you know what, not tonight, because I'm really tired and I have to get up early and I know the kids will wake me up 3 times in the night. So I would love to, but I have to say no. Or you can say, yes, I would like to go down that road with you, because I know that when we go down that road, usually it's really great. Yeah, so it's not about just have this spontaneous, I want to have him lust sex drive. It's much more about working with a lot of things, so you get where you can say, yeah, I would like to go to that restaurant once again.
Exactly. They have wonderful wine there. I love their dessert.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
And then it becomes more natural in the relationship also to talk about these things. And that's also one of the things I teach in my Get Your Sex Drive Back and Keep It for Life online workshop. Hundreds of couples have been through that in Denmark. And one of the things is that when you start talking about these things, you get, as a couple, you get this sexual language. You can, not body language, but you start, you find yourself being able to talk about sex. And I teach them in the online workshop. I have these methods. I teach them how to talk about sex and what they have to talk about for the first couple of conversations. And then they kind of like getting used to talk about sex. So from going from a couple that doesn't talk about sex at all, or a woman with that extreme low sex drive or no sex drive at all, and maybe her husband doesn't even want to go to the workshop, she get all these, oh my God, okay, here is an exercise, and I can talk to him about this, or I can talk to myself about that. So she starts she kickstart this process, even though she just take the workshop by herself, because originally the workshop was only designed for women, but more and more couples takes it. But you can take it alone too. But when you take it alone, you kickstart this process because you start taking initiative to have some conversations with your husband about your sex life that are actually positive.
And like you said, if she just does it by herself, it can still be hugely transformational, because as you've seen and as I've seen, you change one person in the system and it changes the system.
Exactly.
They come back in and they change the system. And it's amazing. I've seen the same thing with my love manifesting course, where women are trying to make these different changes. In my course, in my work with women one-on-one who are in relationships already, I've seen the same thing where it's like they change their one thing, and then they're always surprised to see that made a difference in the way the other person now is responding back to them. They're like, I didn't know that it would do anything for me to just be different, you know? So it's so amazing. It's such amazing work to be able to do with people.
It's so amazing, and often the men react really positive to this because they're good men who don't want to have sex with women who doesn't want to have sex with them, and they actually just miss her.
Yeah, because they love her.
So they miss her and they want to hug her and they want to have sex with her and they just want to have her right here. So it's very positive that way. So if you can kickstart the process, we talked about exhaustion and tiredness. We talked about how to work with your sexual potential, and now we're talking about one of the third thing, that actually developing this language together as a couple. It's so you can start just by starting the small, by talking about sex in positive ways and developing ways. Can you say that? Working ways, yeah. That makes a huge difference, because now you're suddenly talking about the problem in a good way, and it's just not, okay, you don't have a sex drive, don't you love me anymore, or you know, it's a whole other way of looking at the problem.
Yeah. And it's wonderful to see all of the changes that come out of that. It's just like, it's so humbling to get to be a part of that. I remember you were telling me that people send you flowers to your door.
It's crazy, and actually I had a friend of mine who said, wow, it's just so amazing, mate, that you just sit there and has this online business and people just buy your workshop and you know you make good money. And I was just like, and I know that he was looking at my business model, and I'm just like, I go every day when I wake up and I can see that I have sold a seat in the workshop. I'm just like,
because that's a life that's getting changed.
it actually is, and that's also why people send me flowers. It's so crazy. But it's actually what it is. And yesterday, actually, my assistant who's working sitting on my mail, she sent me and forwarded me. Would that be an email with a couple who has experienced lack of sex drive, infidelity, you know, everything. And a year ago, they took my online course, and they've moved and they've done a lot of changes. And she just wanted to say thank you. And that's a year ago they started working on all these issues, and she just wanted to thank me and tell me that I probably didn't know, but I have just saved 2 kids from getting divorced parents.
Oh.
And when you sit there in the evening and you just sneak checking up an email, you know, and you just get this, it's amazing. I am so humble, because I have never thought that, never ever thought. I knew a lot of things, and I knew I'm a good teacher, because I am actually also a teacher.
Yeah.
So I can teach, and that's what I do. But I had absolutely no idea that the result would be so huge. So I'm very humble about it. I'm very grateful, and I'm very thankful, and I'm yeah. And as she said, I'm just one woman from one couple writing to you, and I bet there's a lot of other people that doesn't write to you, because I have been wanting to write to you for months. So I bet there will be a lot of people who doesn't write me, she said.
and feel the same way because of the change that you've made in their life. And
yeah, and I think that's just amazing, because I know, and I bet you do know that, Carisa, too, then if you could read a book, or you could do something that really changes your life, or people say something and you just, oh my God.
mm-hmm.
And a lot of the time you actually forget to say thank you, or I don't write
And sometimes you can't.
authors.
Sometimes you can't say thank you because there's somebody maybe that has touched your life and that they're not around anymore, or somebody you have no way of reaching or something.
Yeah.
But
So
to be the person who can help, who can use your gifts to help people have better lives in this way is such an honor. It's just, and
exactly.
it's such an honor for me to be able to connect with you and to share you with these other women who maybe wouldn't have heard of you otherwise, and the need to know about your work because there's something that you're doing that could help them, Well,
And I am.
you.
Thank you. And when people say, why do you have, you're doing great in Denmark, why do you have to make an international homepage? I remember my sweet, sweet mother-in-law, she asked me 3 or 4 years ago, why do you have to go international? Because you're doing really great in Denmark. And it was just like, I actually have to, I just have to. It's not.
Because there are more people outside of Denmark that need you.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you know what I mean, because you have also this online workshop, as you talked about, and it's just like, oh my God, suddenly you're able to help so many people.
Yeah.
So you actually just have to do it.
And as soon as it's like one of the healthiest kind of addictions that you can have sometimes, because when someone is like, oh, this changed my life, and you see that, you start thinking about all the other people that you could get this to, and all the people that you haven't connected to yet who need to know about it, and you're like, you start wanting to see that difference get made everywhere.
Yeah.
You just start thinking, and then you start feeling like it gives you energy when things are kind of difficult to get it out to people, or something like that is happening, or someone criticizes your work or something like that. It gives you energy because you know that there are people that need it, and it's not as much about you anymore. It's about that there are people that need it,
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for being with us today. And thank you for your patience and your graciousness with redoing the interview again.
No worries, not at all. I love talking about this, and as we talked about before the interview, we had to set a time, set the clock, because we could talk about this for hours. Yeah,
literally. And I just want to tell everybody too that for the Love Manifesting course that's coming up, which is helping women who are, it's my online course about helping women who want to have more dates with the right kind of men and more attention from the right kind of men. May's going to be my guest speaker in that course to come talk with us about sex. So you will see her in the course. So come check that out. I'm going to have her email, not email, her website up for people to visit, and also my website. My website is Carisa Montooth, Carisa Montooth, Montooth.com. And May, where can they connect with you? Where can they connect with you?
Well, yeah, you can connect with me on Twitter, just Maj Wismann, and you can connect with me on my homepage, where you can also actually download. I have a free ebook and a free e-course. So when you download the ebook, you get you follow it. Great.
Yes. Love them.
I send out these emails with the stories with the women who've been through the class, and tips and tricks and all these things about sex drive. And some of them are very funny, and then some of them are very serious, but you learn something in every mail. So if you download my ebook, When Sexuality Plays Up, you will automatically get these emails with
these other tips, these really
these
great
tips.
tips and strategies.
Yeah.
And what's your homepage address?
Wismann.com.
It's spelled MajWismann.com.
Yeah,
So you
exactly.
can also reach May there, and I'll put that information up. Hopefully it'll be on this video already. People can just see it there. So thank you so much. Again, such a pleasure, such an honor to have you here and to share you and your wisdom and your gifts with everyone, because so many women need what you're doing, and it's just an honor and a pleasure again to talk with you, as always.
Thank you so much, and thank you for thinking of me, and thank you for also redoing this interview. I love talking about this, and I know that the women who have been listening, there will be things in this interview they will be thinking about, and that will move them in the direction they want to be. So thank you for letting me give my knowledge away. And I can't wait to work on your to be a part of your online course.